All right, for homework, the first part is to pick a composition to refine. Okay, we're going to take a look at a few examples on the type of feedback that you might get and what that means for you in terms of what your homework is. So we're taking a look at these compositions here. Now, some of you may turn in a composition, a couple of compositions that are great, and I might choose one, say like for instance this one. And if that's the case, then what you would end up doing is you would end up taking your current composition and just maybe refining it a little. I might just say kind of refine it, clean it up so that you can easily trace and know where the lines are. See how here it's kind of a little tricky, it gets a little messy in there. And here you kind of get a sense of where you would draw the objects in Illustrator. Okay, so some of you may be pretty much ready to go, and I may focus in on one and say this one's good to go. Now just refine it. Okay, or sometimes you don't even have to refine it. Somebody turns in something like this and I said that's a good one, turn it in. Okay, granted these are not fantasy meal compositions, these are just compositions that I was able to locate to give you the example. Okay, now some of you may have compositions where of your two compositions, both of them are visually interesting and working on their own level, but they're missing something. So for instance, like this one has a character, but the background isn't very well defined. And then this one here has the background, but there isn't the central character to show the action. So maybe the feedback that you would receive would be to combine both of them to see if there's a way to combine elements from both of them. And then what you would end up doing for your refining piece would be to combine those, and here you would have the combined composition. Okay. Now, some of you may turn in something that neither of the two sketches are quite working. For instance, this one, there's like a lot of empty space here, and filling it might not be correct. Or you may have done it in the wrong format, like this is a lot longer than it is shorter. Or it's missing the element of food, whatever the case may be. If this is the case, and this one say that it's a little too crowded, like there's not a clear perspective, I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at it or from what angle I'm looking at it. I may say, okay, you could either scratch these two and try to come up with one, or try to fix some of these compositions by either cropping where it's interesting, like this area that's kind of interesting so you don't have all this white space, or see if you can fill this with background, like maybe there's a something way far in the background, like a mountain or a hill or some grass or something to give me a sense of where I'm at in space. Okay, so either when I have two compositions that aren't quite working, I may say, try to think of one altogether or try to fix the current compositions if you can. And I'll usually try to lean you in one direction or the other. Like for instance, I think this one might be easier to fix either by cropping or by including a little bit more in the background, just really far away. Okay, and this one I would think would be a little bit harder to fix because the perspective is just really difficult to understand in this one. Okay, so that's the kind of feedback that you might get depending on what your feedback is what you have for homework in terms of refining. If you are one of those that are ready to start tracing this week, you may want to look at the next week. In week 3, I will give you the advice to go to look ahead if you're already done. So it says note, look ahead for access to project 1 design templates. Okay, so you would want to go to week 4 and check out to see the templates there that you could download so that you can start tracing in Illustrator. Okay, you might want to take a look at some of those lectures as well. And the second part of your homework is to determine your software options. This will be the first week that you will actually be needing the software. So you can either go into the labs and use the labs during lab hours. You can click there for the lab hours. Or you can download the 7-day trial of Illustrator only. You can either download it now, or if you think you'd rather go in and work in the labs this week and then download it later whenever you can most efficiently use your 7-day trial, you can do that as well. Or you can pay for the month, which is 30 days of a subscription for the month, and you can click on this link and that'll take you to that area. You would want to buy this single month subscription for a single app monthly plan for Illustrator only. It should be $29.99 or so. Just remember, if you do this, to cancel after the 30 days so that they don't charge you for another month. Okay? All right, so once you've determined what you're going to be using to execute the homework this week, you're going to go ahead and go into the third part of the homework, which is the pen tool exercises. Okay, now this part of the homework has to be completed in Illustrator, okay, and you're going to need to download the pen tool exercises to trace and color. Tracing part, you're going to only be using the pen tool and your modifier keys and things like that. So if you haven't watched the video on the pen tool here, this is a must watch. You want to make sure you watch this because in the homework video, it's only going to do a brief explanation. Okay? So to download the pen tool exercises, we can't just click on it. If you just click on it, it's going to pop up an empty window and it's going to appear to not be working. So I'm going to move back out of that. To download, what we need to do is we need to right click this, and I'm going to go ahead and select download linked file as. On a Mac or on a PC, it might say save link file as or save image as, something like that. So we're just going to go ahead and click on here. And I'm just going to go ahead and make sure select desktop so that I know where it's at. Otherwise, by default, it might go to your downloads folder or something. So I'm going to select the desktop so it's easy to find. And then I'm going to go ahead and name it with my name just so that I don't forget to do that later on. You're going to use your name, okay? And then just hit save. And it's going to start downloading to your desktop. When you're done, you're going to go ahead and minimize this. And you'll notice that it's on your desktop. Now, one of the key things is that a lot of times when these download, sometimes it happens, sometimes it doesn't. But if it does, notice that it says the same file name, but at the end it says ai.ps. If we were to try to just double click this, we'll notice that it comes out in a preview. It doesn't open up in Illustrator the way that we want. So I'm going to go ahead and close this. Okay. And I'm going to go and select this to rename the file. And I'm just going to delete that .ps. That's very important. Okay. So it'll just say .ai. I'm going to go ahead and hit return or enter on my keyboard. And it'll confirm, are you sure you want to change it from a PS to a .ai? And yes, because I want it to be Adobe Illustrator. That's what the .ai stands for. So I'm going to hit use .ai. And now if I double click it, it'll open up inside of Illustrator. Okay. All right, so this is the one that you're going to go ahead and trace. And basically, I'm just going to show you a summary really quick of how you guys are going to go ahead and trace. But again, watch the video on the pen tool and modifier tools above so that you can take a look at how it's done in more detail. Okay. And then once you're done tracing it, you're going to actually need to color it. In the video, it doesn't go through the whole process of coloring, but we are here. So I'm just going to go ahead and select everything here. And then I'm going to select a fill color. I just selected the whole table, and that's because I know that everything's going to be generally brown. So I'm going to go in here, and then I'm going to hit OK. And then I'm going to click off of it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to slightly select a color that's different than that. It's still going to be in the brown range, but it might be a little lighter or a little darker. So I'm going to go a little darker here. And I'm going to do the same thing for this one here. Just going to choose a slightly different color. I'm going to choose the top a different color. And I'm just choosing everything ever so slightly different colors so that you can see the different angles in it. Okay. And usually there's one lighter side and one darker side. Okay. Once I have all of it colored in, I can select all of it at once, and I can go here and click the outline and then remove the outline. And you'll notice that it's all colored in. Okay. If you want to preview, you can turn off the tracing part of it, and you'll notice that you have this area. Sometimes there'll be these little gaps, so you can go in and close these in with your white arrow, so you can use your modifier tools to modify it to make it look more correct, more without that little sliver inside there. Okay. And you may need to have to zoom in here to get it all to look visually correct. And that's how you kind of build, okay? So you're going to do that for the rest of this as well. Color it all in, okay? Once you have everything colored in, you're going to go ahead and do File, Save, and you're going to replace the one that's there. Once it's saved, you're going to go ahead and close out of this. Find that pen tool exercise and also your refined sketch, and you're going to go ahead and submit those inside of La Lima Week 3 assignment. Okay? All right, this concludes your lesson on your homework. If you have any questions, please be sure to contact me.